Hello, welcome back to my channel. If you haven't been here before, I'm Jamie. I read a ton of books. Have I read all these books? Have I finished them? No. Not yet. It's only the 11th of December. But this is the stack I'm working on, along with other books. You'll notice, if you see that shelf right there, it's kind of half full. That right there. Yeah, I'm trying to block the mirror. Whee! Okay, keep the head in front of the mirror. So that up there is where my TBR was. The books that are still up there are TBR books I haven't gotten to yet, that I'm just leaving them there for right now because I don't have a lot finished yet. But I've been making progress, and I've kind of narrowed down what I'm focusing on at the moment. I'm not really in a cover-to-cover reading phase at the moment. Partly I have way too many things going on. I had a holiday party last weekend that was at my house, and I had to get everything clean and make food and get everything organized for it. Yeah, it was fun, but I always wonder why I do this to myself because it was a lot of work, and the house was nowhere near ready a week before the party. So there went a lot of my print reading time. I did more audiobooks than anything else for the first week of December because I was working on that. It happens. But I did dabble in various books, so progress has happened. And some of these are books where I kind of sort of finished them, but not quite. The one on the top, Strange Highways, by Dean Koontz. I found the audio books for most of the stories, but there's a chunk between the bookmarks that I did not find audio for. They're short stories between the novellas. I'm just going to have to read them because I can't find them in audio. So it's not done till I finish that chunk of the book. So one of these days, when I'm in the mood for it, maybe tonight, because it would be nice to just be done, I'm going to read those stories, and then I finish the book. So there's a similar chunk in Nightmares and Dreamscapes. Actually, anything past this bookmark to the end. I've listened to the first, 3/4 of the book or more, but there's a chunk I could not find in audio. So I'm just going to have to read it. And once I finish that small chunk in both of these books, then the books are done. So these may actually be done tonight because they're driving me nuts. I keep forgetting that I didn't finish those little bits of the book. Yeah, so a lot of this stack is that kind of stuff. This one, On Tyranny by Timothy Snyder. I've been reading it a few pages at a time. Here, yeah, let it focus on the white, and then we'll put it aside. It's one that is separated into 20 sections. So I read a section and comment on it on my social media. I have a friend who's also reading it and kind of doing the same thing. So I would like to be done with it. It's a very short book. I'm about halfway through, but I'm not done yet. And I haven't been traditionally cover-to-cover reading it. I might for the rest of it, though, just to be done with it. And it will probably stay in my collection after I finish it, because, as I said, I have a friend that's reading it, and it would be nice to have it on hand to reference it. This is one I started because it was the closest book to me during a sprint. It's short, nice and short. It is The Book of Getting Even by Benjamin Taylor. Blurbed by Philip Roth. I've kind of liked some of Roth's stuff, so maybe. And it's just short. I've read 10 pages, I think. So about 10%. If I just sit down and read it for one sprint, which there will be reading sprints tonight. I'm pretty sure that Nicole at Dusty Book Sniffers has reading sprints in a couple hours. So if I just pick that book for one sprint, I probably will be done with it. So that one's hopefully going to join the books up there, and I'll take the ones I haven't read off, and it'll actually be finished books. I just hate wasting a whole little shelf for like 2 books. So once there's enough to justify taking the ones I haven't read off of it, it'll be the books I've finished. This one, I've been reading a copy that's in much worse shape. This one also had some damage, and I think this is the one, this is the one that's had some underlining in it, like with pen and highlighting and stuff. So it might just end up on the free cart outside the bookstore, because we don't usually sell those. People don't like buying books that they find have already been written in, even at a used bookstore. Yeah. So this one and the other one were ones I ended up with because they were in poor condition. The other one, though, is literally falling apart. So I'm letting it. And I'm just reading chapters at a time, and I'll just literally take the chapters I'm reading with me because it's literally falling apart. So it'll end up recycled a few pages at a time as I read it. And then the one that is here, it's not in great condition, but it's readable, and so I'll just donate it back, probably for the free cart, if my siblings don't want to keep it, which they might. But I've been meaning to read it all year, so, finally getting to it. I may not be done with Hamilton by the end of the year. This is Alexander Hamilton by Ron Chernow, for those that didn't catch that. And then I've got some poetry. So, I'm going to do a commentary section after I show you guys my stack and tell you guys what I read, that addresses some of the things that have been going on in the State of the Booktubes videos that have been popping up. But for now, I have poetry books, which you guys know I'm not a fan of poetry, but I have them because I'm making myself read poetry. So these are just a bunch of short poetry books. And they don't take very long. But my goal was to read a print book a day for this month, and an ebook a day, and an audiobook a day. We'll see if the audiobooks work for that, because they tend to take a while. But I certainly have enough poetry books that I have short books to offset some of the longer audiobooks. This is one that I read most of it for a readathon. As in, I think I actually finished it, but it was late at night, and I just wasn't connecting with it very well. And so I don't feel satisfied saying that I'm done with it and it's ready to go anywhere. It's not fat. It's short. It's a short stories and short stories collection by Ken Saro-Wiwa. I have a memoir of his as well. So I think I have another book by him too. I think I have 3 total by that author. So I might actually find those others too and read them. So it might be closer to the end of the year by the time I finish that one, and then I'll just roll the other 2 into January, because that way maybe I'll be in the right mindset to read the other 2. But once I finish it, it will go away. I'm not satisfied that it's ready to go yet. Another poetry book. This is one that I keep losing it because I read it when I'm crocheting and then it ends up in a project bag or under things. So I am about halfway in this book. It's called And Then All Hell Broke Loose by Richard Engel. He is a journalist who spent a lot of time in the Middle East. So this is like his memoir about being a journalist in the Middle East and how he got there and his early days doing that job. It's really good. I just keep losing it. So I found it again. I'm going to finish it this time. It's going to happen. Because I don't want to lose it again. I have another one somewhere around here, losing books, called Hamlet Revenge, which I was actually kind of reading last night on sprints. Because I found it in the bottom of a project bag. Yeah. So sometimes when I talk about reading a book and then nothing happens, it's because it got lost in my crochet stuff. Or in stacks of books. If I had to put together a TBR for a reading project or a read along, or yeah, these things happen. But we're going to finish that one probably by the end of the weekend. One I started that I was like, well, it wasn't on my TBR exactly, and it's a little bit more involved. Like, it's not a quick read. But I realized I had 2 copies of it, and maybe that was because I forgot that I already had one. And so maybe if I read it, I won't feel like I need to get any more copies, because I almost ended up with yet another copy and remembered, oh, I think I have that. As a matter of fact, I have a hardback and a paperback of Home by Marilynne Robinson. So I'm just going to read it. And that way it'll be done, and I can send both the hardback and the paperback on its way. I already know one of my siblings has it, because that's where the 3rd copy would have come from. So, yeah. So one of them will go to the sibling that doesn't have it, and then the other copy can go away. So, this is one that was not on the TBR, but is now. This one is one that I almost, see that bookmark? Almost finished it by the end of November. Cat Fight by Kit Conway. I didn't actually end up finishing it because it wasn't the focus for November. Because November was for ARCs, and this is actually technically an ARC. It is an advanced reader copy, but it's one that I got off a free shelf or from a bag of books. Might have been a bag of books book, but it was definitely not one that I got as an ARC. But it is technically an ARC. But it wasn't the focus for November. I'm close to done with it. It's okay. I'm finding it hard to suspend disbelief about there being large wildcats in what they consider forest in Britain. We're not talking Scotland here. We're talking like the little postage stamp forests. There may be some that are more believable, but the ones that I saw when I visited England that were being shown to me as, ooh, scary forest. People get lost in there. Don't go in there without a compass and a flashlight and all this survival gear. Like, it's a mile on each side. If you just keep going in the same direction, you'll get to the end of the forest. It's not really a forest. It's like if somebody took a farm and turned it into a forest, but only within the boundary of the farm, and not a very big farm. I come from a state where we have forests that are the size of some small countries. So, yeah, there's that. So somehow in this book there are large wildcats that nobody knows about, but they're there. And every once in a while you hear rumors about that there might be a wildcat in this forest. But they are in the kind of forest that I was just describing. It's not the kind of landscape where they have native forest. It's all planted. It's not very big. It's not very wild. I'm not sure how they missed the wildcats all this time. So, yeah. There are skeptics in the book that agree with me that we can't possibly have missed wildcats for all this time. But I suspect at this point that there are wildcats. And I'm having a hard time with that, which is part of why it's not done yet, because I had to grumble at it again. But it's almost done. As a matter of fact, I could finish it and move on to something else during a sprint tonight. So it will be done probably before I go to bed tonight. One that I started and then misplaced, not for very long, but I did misplace it, was The Silent Boy by Lois Lowry, which is good so far. Yeah, I need to get back to it before I can tell you what I think of it, because I misplaced it before I'd gotten very far into it. But it's not very long. It's a chapter book, probably aimed at the 10 to 16 range reader. Just depending on your kids' reading ability in that age range. I know I was reading at a near college level by 6th grade, so I have no idea what age it's appropriate for, but it is written for kids, so it's not inappropriate for young readers. And it's Lois Lowry who wrote The Giver and that series, and they're really good too if you haven't read them. Anyway, so those are the ones that I've been working on. And my Kazakh poetry book. I picked this book as one of my 6 hours. One of the books I got for working for 6 hours at the bookstore. So I picked it out. It's a poetry book, but it's a cool one. It's published by nonprofits in coordination with the Kazakh government, so Kazakhstan. And is aimed at making Kazakh literature more accessible to the world. So it's been published in all 6 primary UN languages. It's an anthology of Kazakh poetry. And there's apparently a prose volume of this publication as well. So yeah, it's pretty cool. And I don't know if I'm keeping it or if I'm going to give it to somebody for Christmas, but I'm definitely reading it. I've gotten through 2 poets worth of poetry so far. I'm still not sure I'm a poetry girl, but I appreciate some of the turns of phrase and imagery, and so I kind of get it. It's okay. And the one that I actually finished, I'm going to try not to drop the books, is this one, Kant's Little Prussian Head and Other Reasons Why I Write, by Claire Massoud, who also wrote The Emperor's Children, which I have in audio format now, and I also have in print. So I'm going to get to it this month, because I don't want to waste the audiobook while I have it checked out. And when I find it in print, it will go with my finished books, probably this month, because I am trying to organize things a little bit. So I will find it. It is somewhere. Claire Massoud also wrote one of the books that ended up on the BookTube Prize nominee list for this year, I believe. Strange Eventful History? I think that's what it was called. Anyway, so she's had several books that have made it onto lists. And this is an autobiography and essays. Some of the essays are more like filler to me, but I'm sure that they have more meaning if you know more about what she was doing at the time that she wrote that essay or something like that. Anyway, the short story sort of essays, like where they're actually stories, narrative, not just essays about books. And they were okay. And I was a little tickled by the fact that I've read most of the books that her reviews of books or her essays about specific books were about. So, little nerd moment. Like, oh, I've read that too. Oh, did you think that about that book? I'm not sure. I disagree. You know, I've read enough books that happens more often now. So, that's kind of fun. So, this is actually the only one that already goes on the finished shelf that right now is being occupied by those books. So by the time I make my next video, that shelf will have this book and probably some of these other ones. So that's the books that I am working on. The books I've finished, besides this one, which was the first one I finished in the month. Oh my goodness, my cat. Can you hear that? Catarina. She's got her toy, and she has a meow that she does when she's carrying her toy around. If she brings it over, I'll show you what the toy looks like. But if you hear yowling in the background, that is her telling the world that she has her toy. So, yeah. So one of the things I did for my audiobooks for this month is I did a keyword search for long list in the library system and pulled up audiobooks that I could check out that were long listed for something. So I got a couple good ones. I got Elmet by Fiona Mosley. I don't remember which long list it was on, or short list, but it was shortlisted, I believe, for stuff. It was historical literary fiction. Yeah, it was pretty good. It was a 5-star. I don't know what the rest of its field was for that prize. So that I will have more to say about it once I've read enough to talk about what it was listed for. I read Everything is Tuberculosis, or listened to, by John Green. Not really a listed book, but it probably will be if it hasn't been already. It probably has been for something by now. I was not expecting it to actually be history, but it was. If it comes in at the bookstore, or when it comes in at the bookstore, this is a history book about the history and persistence of our deadliest infection, tuberculosis. It's more literary history because it is talking about more than just the straight names and dates and places history. More narrative than a lot of history ends up being. But yeah, it would belong in my section of the bookstore, which was nice. And it's well written. I can see why people have been talking about it. Yeah, tuberculosis is one of those diseases that we've kind of forgotten about because it hasn't been an issue. But it's not gone. And a lot of people get tuberculosis that don't even know that they have it. A lot of people are carriers for it and don't have symptoms. And sometimes when someone you know is coughing, it might actually be tuberculosis. Crazy thought. In our part of the world, that's not something we immediately think. But as this book points out, it's actually quite possible that people around you have tuberculosis. Craziness. And most of the time it won't kill you, but sometimes it will. And when it becomes deadly, it's really deadly and really horrible. And not something that's really particularly treatable if you don't catch it when it's like not killing you. Like, yeah, it's one of those, like, I'm kind of glad that we're not constantly worrying about it, but I had not really expected it was going to be that timely a thing. And I have a feeling it's going to be more timely in the future, considering that our country's response to health and wellness is getting increasingly schizophrenically weird. Yeah. So, anyway. Ramble. It was a good book. I recommend it. Read it. John Green normally writes YA stories about people that committed suicide or a young person that's having a hard time and their friend is trying to deal with it, kind of stuff. I've read a couple. Some of them are okay. I think I liked Paper Towns, actually. That one was pretty good. But they're usually YA. This one is more just any age audience. But probably more older YA and adult. But it's not something that's that goes to the inappropriate for kids range adult. So anyway, hi, did you bring me your toy? Did you bring your toy? I don't see it. Bring me your toy. I can show everyone your toy. I know. I finished Perfection by Vincenzo Latronico, which is on the Dublin Literary Award nominee list for this coming year. As I mentioned in an earlier video, the Dublin Literary Award pulls from books that were published mid-2024 to mid-2025 for the 2026 award, which is kind of nice because they've all been published. So we don't get things like with the Booker, for example, or the National Book Award or Women's Prize, where it can be in the short list and in the top 3 finalists and still have not come out yet. I hate that. So with Dublin Literary Award, because the time frame that it pulls from is from up to 2 years previously, so middle of 2 years ago, to a year ago? Yeah. They're pulling from books that have for sure already come out. So it might be hard to find some of them because the nominating libraries are from all over the world, but they're at least published. I think it was Palaver by Brian Washington that it only just published. That was one of them for the National Book Award list. Yeah, I read it because I had it as an ARC, but if you're not reading ARCs, it must be really frustrating that the prizes don't stick to things that are actually available. Here's the kitty, and here is her toy. Oh, am I showing off your toy for everybody? For everybody? Yeah, it's not for everybody. It's your toy. That's her toy. That's what she's been carrying around and making yowly noises about. It's literally just a string that I crocheted with kind of a fat end where I went back and did extra rows on it, out of washable wool, and she loves it. So yeah, it is starting to wear out. I need to make more. But that is the yowling in the background. And I'm sure she'll start again as soon as somebody steals it from her and she has to get it back. Anyway, so Perfection by Vincenzo Latronico is on the Dublin Literary Award nominee list that was put out a couple weeks ago. What We Can Know by Ian McEwan is an ARC that I read recently. Perfection I found as an audiobook. What We Can Know I read as an e-ARC from NetGalley. It was okay. I can see why it didn't get a lot of recognition for prizes. It was one of those where there's like 2 parallel stories that are supposed to come together. They kind of do, but it was not very clear. I could figure out, okay, that's where the connection should be, but it wasn't very satisfyingly done. So I can see why I have not seen a lot of that McEwan book in prize lists. I've read quite a few of his books at this point. It was not his best. It was good. I liked the futuristic setting. So there's one of the storylines is in 2014, and the other storyline is in the future, considerably in the future, to where they're doing anthropology, archaeology level research on 2014. The climate has gone really bad in a lot of ways. And the main character in the futuristic setting is a teacher and is trying to make the past relevant to teenagers who think that it's all BS, and all those people in the past were such idiots, and surely they knew better, and they obviously didn't, or they didn't care, and so why should they care? And yeah, so there's a bit of preachiness involved, but in a funny way. It did work. Just the novel as a novel didn't stick together very well. Anyway, then I did the audiobook of The Everlasting by Alex E. Harrow. I did request it. I did not get it as an e-arc. So I listened to it from the library. I don't know if I would have liked it more if I'd read it with my eyeballs. It was okay, but it was fantasy. It was okay. The world building was okay, but didn't really draw me into where I need to read the next book or anything. I don't know if there will be a next book, but it could be. It's the kind of world building where it could be part of a series. I don't know. But I didn't care enough to find out, so it wasn't that amazing. But it was good. This is the second Harrow book I've read. I liked the other one, Starling House. That was that one. Better. Then I finished Tony Interrupter by Nicola Barker. It was fun, literary fiction about a guy that interrupts a concert. Just a heckler. Nothing major. Shouldn't have been an event. And that one moment changes the lives of quite a few of the people involved. And yeah, it talks about social media and society and how people are connected to each other and stuff like that. It's not a very long book for how much is fit into it. And I have seen it mentioned for prize lists. So I don't remember offhand what those lists were, but I've seen it on lists. It was good. I do recommend it. 4.75 to 5 stars, but leaning towards 5 stars. I finally finished the arc of The Blue Horse by Bruce Borgos. This one was a 4-star for me. Just a crime novel that was, it was a good crime novel. It ends up being a mafia plot, which is a little bit of a stretch. It reminded me in that respect of a Clive Cussler and trying to connect all these things that don't seem like they should connect. But Cussler did it better. And this is not this sort of large sweeping plot that Cussler writes. So I felt like maybe the Italian crime family connection was a bit much for a story set in rural Nevada around a wild horse roundup. So maybe it was taking on too much. It just felt a little bit thin, flat. Didn't work for me as well as I was hoping. I liked the wild horse angle, and he does get into a lot of the ethical issues around how we treat wild horses in the United States. Just a nerdy aside, horses were endemic to North America and then died out. And the reason we have horses here now is because they were reintroduced through like the conquistadors and the Spanish influence coming up from the south, that they brought their horses with them. But those horses are very distant cousins of the ones that were here. So all of the Native American traditions about using horses, those horses are traditions that don't go any further back than Europeans showing up and bringing their horses with them. But horses originated here, or at least they were originally here. And North and South America had all sorts of species of horse-related critters that mostly have died out. But yeah, there's some really good natural histories of the horse. G.G. Simpson wrote a good classic natural history of the horse that I highly recommend. You might have to search for it and find it in some ebook copy from a library or something. But a natural history of the horse, some variation on that title by G.G. Simpson. Really interesting. Anyway, so I fall on the side of if you can't feed your cattle because there are horses eating the food the cattle are eating, you got problems because there's not that many horses, and that number of horses shouldn't destroy your ability to raise cattle. So it may mean that you're trying to run cattle in a climate that shouldn't support cattle and that population. Anyway, lots of ecology going on there. And I'll get more nerdy on that when I find the right book. I will do more. But I did like that aspect of this book. But the murder mystery part, I think it tried to be too grand and sweeping while not being a grand sweeping story all at the same time. And needed to pick one and stick with it a little more to make it actually convincing. But it is book 3 in a series, which is still pretty early if this is a series that's going to continue. So, yeah, it might get better. Then I finished The Book Depository, Tales from the Children of the Egg by David Apricot. Also an ARC. Sci-fi, involving organisms grown from eggs that are humanoid, but like white, not Caucasian white, hairless, and they are like a slave race that's been made, like genetically engineered, using something that's like DNA but not DNA. Like, that wouldn't fly. They're not going to be able to maintain that as a legal argument for the generations that they have. It's... Anyway. And to be fair, it's far enough in the future. There's people on so many planets. There are planets and sectors where the laws are different. So the world building is there for addressing my concerns. The world building was actually great. I liked the whole setup that Apricot came up with. I wonder if that's his actual name. It's a weird author name if he picked it. Anyway. What I had issues with was the first half of the book. It felt more like one of those East Asian cozy novels in which you have some sort of a shop, and you have different people that show up in the shop, and they each have a cute little problem, and the shop or the people in it solve their problem in some heartwarming way, and then they move on to the next episode. It really felt like that's what it was doing, which did not fit with the sort of cutthroat, bloodthirsty cruelty that was also part of this world. You don't get both like that. It didn't work. So what I was missing was really a central plot that makes these stories not just like episodes in one of those cutesy, cozy novels. It does eventually come. There is a central plot, and it does work. And those individual stories actually build to make the central plot. So this is one where some of the editing stuff that I don't know the jargon for, and vaguely could describe. I'm not that kind of editor yet. I'd love to be, but I'm not right now. Some of my friends on BookTube are, and could tell me what's wrong with this book. But it needs the kind of editing that's not about punctuation and whether it makes sense, but so that it flows better and so the emphasis is where you want it to be. So with the right editing, this would be a five-star book, and part of a successful 5-star series, because the world building is there to be that kind of series. I'm hoping that the author has access to that kind of editor, and doesn't just leave it as this one book and call it good, or alternatively just self-publish a bunch of equally not quite great books that nobody buys. And there's always books like that show up at our bookstore that, with an editor that knows that level of craft, they could be great books. As written, I can see why no one wants to spend money on them. And I'm hoping that's not the way this book goes, because it has so much potential. It could be so cool. As is, it was a 3-star book for me, and I am a sci-fi reader. So, but really good concepts. If you are able to look past the structural problems with this novel, look it up, because the concepts are cool. And the bonus chapter should have been incorporated earlier in the book, because it was part of what made it really cool, part of the world building, and would definitely be a justification for expecting more books. So, just saying. But anyway, so that's an arc. And then Waterline by Aram Merjoyan. This is one that it's been out for a little while. It's been missed by a lot of people. It came out in July, I think, something like that. It's not really gotten the attention I would expect for the quality of this book. This is a 5-star for me, maybe 4.5 stars, but really, I think it's more of a 5-star literary fiction. Looking at an Armenian immigrant family in the United States, several generations in from when they left Armenia, and they are still dealing with the generational trauma from the Armenian genocide and the violence that was a generation before that. So not all the members of this family left Armenia from the genocide itself. Some of them left 20 years earlier because there was violence predating the genocide. There is some background to give you a sense of what they're talking about with this genocide, but it's not wallowing in the horribleness of that event. I've read other novels that are heavy. This one, that's the background for this family, and they're dealing with it. They're trying to figure out, how do you move on from that? And then one of their younger family members dies. So they're also dealing with that. And it's really just, here's this family, here's these things that have happened and are happening. And how does it affect their relationships, and how do they move on from these things? I really liked it. I thought it was well done. So, yeah, if you're looking for a book that's kind of fallen under the radar a little bit, Waterline by Aram Merjoyan, Merjoian. Yeah, I have not seen it on lists. It has some reviews now, but not nearly as many as I would have expected. And none of my friends have talked about it. So I kind of wonder if it's just gotten missed. Not entirely. People have read it. There are reviews besides mine. But yeah. Anyway, so that's what I've read so far this month. I was going to rant at the end of this video about stuff, because I've been watching State of the Booktubes videos. All those videos people make about Is BookTube broken? What is wrong with BookTube? Is BookTube killing books? No, books are not alive. You can't kill them. I have thoughts, but I'm going to do a separate rant with my thoughts as a separate video so you guys don't have to suffer through that because we're at 45 minutes in. Yeah, so expect that. It'll be just a Jamie talking about books and bookish issues and BookTube. And I will not be calling out booktubers who I disagree with. That is not the point. The point is to put my views out there somewhere. Because there are some views I have that are based on my background and my being very poor, that I think sometimes BookTube scares away people that would resonate with my perspective, because the dominant perspective is quite a bit different. And we don't want to scare away people who just have a different starting point and are reading books. Expect a rant, or at least a Jamie talking without showing very many books. There may be books involved, but we'll see. Do you have your toy again? You do. I see it. All right. Well, the cat has brought me your toy yet again, so I need to make the toy move. I'm going to sign off. Let me know in the comments if you have read any of the books that I have shown off in this video. Either the ones I finished or the ones that I am going to hopefully finish. Yeah. And I will see you guys in the next video or in the chats, in live streams, somewhere. Let me know what you are reading and if there's anything you've read that you thought, wow, I think Jamie would love this book, because I might. And for the near future, at least for the next, I don't know, however many months until I figure out how to move, I am working at a bookstore. So if it looks interesting, there's a good chance I might be able to find a copy. So anyway, talk to you guys soon. Bye, guys.